Hey guys, thanks so much for joining us for another episode of Search from Home. I'm incredibly excited to have my co-host back, who happens to be this way. He let the whole thing devolve into insanity yesterday with Perna, so it's all your fault. Now, Perna was awesome. Luckily, she's smart, and it made me look better than I am. So I was very excited about that. But Mr. Reinhardt's back with us. Thank you for coming back.
Oh, of course.
He's not fed up of us yet. And a man I'm extremely fond of and happy to call a good friend of mine, John Shehata from Condé Nast, is here today. He is master of all things audience at Condé Nast. So really excited to have him here today with us in order to share some of his interesting insights and intelligence. This is a guy I love who, if you haven't seen him speak at a conference, then you've definitely missed out. He's got a wide berth of understanding, whether it's mobile or local or social or anything basically engaging with content and audiences. This guy's your guy. So I'm so excited to have him here today. John, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thanks for having me. I'm so excited. I think I do more Conductor webinars and conferences than any other place because I enjoy being with you and being with you with your audience. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. I'll send you the paycheck later. So, John, how are you doing in this COVID situation before we kick off into the meat and potatoes of this thing, as they say?
I mean, it's tough times, right? I think this is my 6th week at home. So I think we went home earlier than other companies. So in the beginning, you feel it, oh, this is fun, you're working from home. And then, especially if you have a long commute like mine, and then after a couple of weeks, schools shut down, and then you have the kids and stuff like this. My wife is a pharmacist, so she goes to work. So I have the kids with remote schooling and work and everything else. So after a while, it gets crazy, but then you get used to it. So it's good. I just can't wait to go back to work.
Amen.
Yes.
There.
Yeah, I'm like, I haven't even had my kid yet, and I'm like ready to go. So I'm like, I see you guys with the multiple kids, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't imagine. Like, I just can't.
If they're not crawling, you're in a good place. So once they crawl and talk and go to school, it's all different. Got it.
So I'm
so much energy.
I have a small. We got to get over COVID within that time period, so I can.
Yeah.
Got it. As soon as she can crawl, I'm done for.
You have a year, so you're good.
Okay, 1 year. COVID vaccine, 1 year. Just because Stefan needs it. So, John, tell us a little bit about your role at Conde, just to frame up what you're going to share with us now.
Sure. So I head audience development strategy, which all centralized centers of excellence within Condé Nast. So this is all the U.S. brands. Most probably you guys know, like Wired, Vogue, New Yorker, GQ, Vanity Fair, Bon Appetit. And there are so many but these are the most popular ones, Ars Technica, and so on. So I oversee 3 teams. The first team is search engine optimization, which I have been doing for 18, 19 years. So this is where my heart is. They're all my children, but SEO has a special place in my heart. Then the social media, social strategy team, which I have been doing almost now for 15 years or 12 years. I think 12 years since Twitter started. And then email strategy and operation, which handles all kinds of managing the platforms and creating the strategy for all our email products across Condé Nast. So it's a good gig. I can't complain. It keeps me busy. So yeah, everything audience development over there.
Yeah, and your team's actually fairly large. I mean, comparatively to some other places, right? I mean, how big's the team in total?
I think given any time, we're between 20 and 25. So it's a good size team. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people would be happy to have a fraction of that. So
yeah, that's awesome.
it's really great to hear, one, that a company is making those kinds of investments, and two, that, you get to use those kind of resources to kind of help you out. So how about we do this? I know you have stuff to share. Let's kick it over to let you share your screen and walk us through some of your findings, what you've been seeing going on with these large publishers and COVID.
Sure. So as usual, I love to share some knowledge with, so I put together some slides, not so many. I think we're gonna go over it like maybe in 15 minutes, and it's like, in this time, how to undiscover trends, how to tell a story, right? There are so many content out there. There are so many reports out there. So how to find the right story, how to find the right trend, what are the users are interested in. So what I did is I put a collection of tools and resources for publishers to find trends out there. I think I have maybe over 40 different tools in that slide. So let me go very quickly. So that's me. When this is back in the days where we're able to like go to Disneyland. So anyway, so okay. So you guys are familiar that Google did a lot of updates recently. They have the new schema for health announcement. They have the new SERP layout that they are testing, which I hate with passion. The three column layout. They have a new dedicated news section in Google News just for COVID news. And then recently they just announced like they're gonna have free Google Shopping listings starting on Monday. So Google is doing a lot of stuff. Now, let me get to the content trends, how you discover content trend. I think recently, if you look at Google Trends, which is like the #1, everyone goes there, you will see that coronavirus got to a peak where like people were very, very interested. But now you see slowly it's going down. So this is, to keep this in mind, I just want to put that slide here first, because it's not all about hard news and status updates and cases and maps. People are, I don't want to say losing interest, but they are not as interested as they used to be like in the beginning of March. So keep this in mind, because in general, these are the topics that I found from across our portfolio and searching around. These are like the 6 or 7 main topics that people are interested in, right? The news and culture, what's happening in celebrity and so on, what to do when you're stuck at home. So you see a lot of cooking, a lot of food storage, a lot of beauty and grooming at home, home fitness. We see a lot of box subscription and delivery, going home, online socializing. So there is a huge sense of like join me, or like the community kind of aspect, staying at home, office design, office furniture. We're just talking about the lights, selfie lights, the selfie ring light. I tried to order one, and then it took like a month now to get, so everyone is buying that. Health and explainers, hygiene, armchair travel, right? So you can travel, but like how you can travel from your chair. In the beginning of COVID, we saw a huge increase in travel and transportation concerns. Everyone was trying to cancel their, how to get refunds and cancel their travel plans and so on. So there was a huge spike there. A lot of people are looking for entertainment and distraction. I think in the first couple of days of COVID-19, TikTok downloads reach about maybe 2-3 million downloads a day. So people are looking for distractions. Netflix consumption is up to the roof and so on. Health and explainers and so on. So this is a quick view of the thing. So the first place that you should turn into for your content trends and content ideas is your own analytics, right? So this is a quick thing. I did a word cloud on Bon Appetit, looked at the keywords that were trending in the last couple of weeks, and everyone's crazy for baked potatoes, right? I don't know what's going on there, but everyone is. So look at your own trend. you will see like bread flour here. You will see baked potato recipes, chicken breast recipes, and so on. So
John, sorry to cut you off. Did you take your internal search in order to do this?
No, this is Google search.
Okay. Got it.
Driving to us. So first step, look at your own analytics and see what's happening with your audience. Another thing also I did, if you use Google Search Console and Data Studio from Google and you do just like week over week delta, you start noticing also some interesting trends in your traffic, right? So you see again, baked potato, dalgona coffee. I'm going to talk about it a little bit later. And there is no percentage there because it was infinity. It was like went from 0 to like hundreds of thousands and so on. But then also you look at the trends that are going down. For some reason, vegan recipes is dropping quickly. Gluten-free beer is also dropping. So it's interesting to look at what's trending up and down in your content. So you
need human contextualization to some of this. Like,
yes, absolutely.
I'm just noticing something, right? Like
because
whiskey sour, right? Whiskey sour is clearly may stick around for a while, but I don't think matzo ball soup will have the same amount when it's not Passover.
It's seasonal, right?
Easter dinner ideas will not have this kind of crazy increase either if you continue to look at it week over week, right? So there needs to be some contextualization of a human. I only say that because I think that like this is where everyone, always talks about how, well, SEO could be automated someday and it could all be done. And it's like, yeah, but a machine wouldn't necessarily pick up on that. So you need some context that goes beyond beyond these things and can actually take into account that, yes, we are in fact near Easter, or we were dealing with Passover. Matzo ball soup is a traditionally Passover related food, though it's eaten at other times as well. But I have a feeling the increase was simply because of Passover, right?
Absolutely. And this is week over week. So I did this very quickly just to have it on the slides.
Sure.
But if I would do this better and have my time, I would do week over week and year over year, because true seasonality, you will see it in year over year and then week over week. So if you put these two data points together, absolutely. So knowing the brand, knowing the seasonality of the brand, you can easily know all these kind of trends.
Interesting.
Another thing also, so I mentioned on my first slide, is the COVID kind of interest is slowing down a little bit. One of the things I did at work is I started differentiating between COVID content versus non-COVID content. And you want to see how the two graphs are separating slowly, right? So you see here, there's more interest in non-COVID content growing as the time goes. So that's another data visualization I think will be helpful for publishers. Okay.
John, hold on a second. So when you say COVID content versus non-COVID content, how did you define that? Think about like for other folks who'd be trying to figure that out. Like, did the word COVID or coronavirus or have to be included in the content, the title tag, what was your methodology to define that? Because that's a lot of content I'm sure you had to look through to figure this out.
Yeah, so there is a lot of ways, and it all comes down to like how you categorize your content, right? So it depends on the CMS, right? Do you categorize your content? Do you have like if you're using, I don't know, some kind of natural language processing where you build your own clusters of topics, or if you have editorial free tags that you add, or if you have a certain taxonomy that you add and so on. So it starts with there and whatever your taxonomy is, or the simplest is like, hey, I'm going to take all my URLs that drive content through a set of keywords, right? I'm going to define as COVID and everything else is non-COVID. So you can get as advanced as your CMS and your tools are, or you can do simple by URL clustering. So
sorry, I just think sometimes you do things that almost are like others. You might assume that they're like, the typical, but I got to tell you, like, I could tell you at least 90% of the folks I'm talking to are not classifying their content in this way. And I think that's a huge thing to not, I know for you it might be just another slide, but I just want people to think like, forget COVID.
Keep me honest. Me honest.
No, you're very, dude, it's not about calling you out, because this is all calling you out on your smarts, if anything. this would just be a moment to pause and say, hey guys, if you're not thinking about how to classify your content and look at it from perspectives, in this case, John has the flexibility to approach it from a timely reason, meaning COVID, right? Traditionally, we might do that based on folder structure or products or depending on who you are. But like to be able to go beyond the folder structure or the URL structure and actually take it down to keyword level, keywords that might be driving to those pages. There's some really interesting ideas that I think, if anything, we might get John back on for a whole session simply based on how to categorize your content, because I think there's true value here in terms of how you report and as well as how you analyze what's happening to your website in a COVID and in a non-COVID time.
Yeah.
Sorry, just wanted to bring that up because I think that's a valuable little piece along the way.
Thanks, Stefan. So I'm gonna talk about 3 different types of tools: search trends, social trends, and commerce trends, right? I'm gonna give you a lot of tools, guys, and what they are best for. So Google Trends has a customized page for coronavirus search trends. They have a lot of questions, a lot of data. So this is something you should look at. Search for Google Trends coronavirus. And there is a really great page that you should be looking at. And you see like a lot of terms are coming around second wave and so on. So that's one place you should be looking at. Another thing is the traditional Google Trends tool. One of the things I like to do is instead of searching for a keyword, I search within the vertical. So I'm searching for all, right? Or I'm using, like, you can leave the search term empty or asterisk here. And then I select home and garden here for the past 90 days. And I see like home and garden as a vertical in Google Trends. So Google Trends have about maybe 400, 500 categories and subcategories. So it's very helpful to dig into like these categories and see what's happening there. Some of them are seasonal, like going to above ground pools. That's not a COVID-19 trend, but it's more like around this time every year, this is where that search explodes. So you can look at a specific category. Another category like hair care, which is growing really massively after COVID-19. So one of the things you can look at the bottom here and you see, for example, like how to cut men's hair, how to cut my own hair, right? So a lot of that. And the crazy thing, hair clippers are going through the roof, right? Yeah. Everyone's searching for hair clippers.
I have a theory that soon we'll see how to deal with a bad haircut as a follow-up to all of these queries.
Or how to fix a bad haircut.
Yeah, how to fix a bad haircut. I think all of these things will go up. That's my prediction. You heard it here first, guys. Anyway, go on.
I think after Pink had her hair cut on Instagram or something, this whole thing trend just like bloomed. Like Everyone was like, so search and social, they really come together, and you have to understand, that's why I'm talking about search and social together. I think the dress color a couple of years ago, is it gold or yellow? That was a social trend that moved to become a search trend. The Yanni sound, which sound do you hear? That was a social trend that moved to search. So it's good to look at those two. This is travel as a category. And again, I'm not looking for any search terms. And you see the drop there. It's interesting if you are in an industry where no one is searching for that, you need to figure out, so what are the important topics? If people are not traveling, what are the travel adjacent topics that you can be talking about? Because you can't just go like, we don't have any travel, we're not going to write about it. So people were interested in stocks, travel cancellation, nostalgia travel, armchair travel, latest news about travel, like Disney when they closed and so on. So it can allow you to find some ideas to write about. Another tool I like, it's called Exploding Topics. I think it's by Backlinko or got purchased by Backlinko. So there is a lot of information. It goes back 5 years, and they send a newsletter, weekly newsletter, where they talk about like new trends that they saw over the last week. So it's a good tool. I encourage you to look at it. another tool, it's called Trendly. I like Trendly. They discover topics that I'm not aware of. Toothache, for example. It's like, oh, I'm thinking about it now. A lot of people will have teeth issues, right? And so we had an incident, and we call our dentist, and they open one day a week for emergency stuff. So you see there is a problem over there. And then when you click on toothache, right, and you see like people are more conscious about like, oh, they have some kind of like scheduled appointment or something that's happening, right? And they give all the related queries, not just from Google, but they give related queries from Amazon and YouTube. So it's a nice tool to look at. They also have a coronavirus related tool, related topics, at-home workout, hand sanitizer, and so on, online church. So I like Trendly a lot. Actually, they give a lot of information. Meet Glimpse, or Glimpse it's called. It's a good tool. They give you a lot of stuff. Like I think I saw bread machines over there that I haven't seen anywhere else in the beginning. So they give you a lot of new products or industries or companies. So that's their focus when they approach the trends. Advanced Web Rankings just launched a tool recently, and I like that tool a lot. So this goes back to your question, how you group content together. So the way they approached it is they created clusters of keywords and assigned these keywords to each of these industries. And they tracking the impressions on these keywords week after week, and they see, are they seeing more impressions or lower impressions? So very simple approach. And then they can tell you if it's going up or down, and they tell you the keywords that they're tracking for that specific trend. So I think it's a very useful tool as well. This is for travel. Okay, so this is few, like maybe 10 or 11 different tools to focus on search that are publicly and free out there. Social trends, there is Pinterest trends that launched maybe like about 6-7 months ago. And they give you like different topics, how they are trending. Search in Pinterest is huge. So you think of Pinterest, you think of YouTube as social channels, but search is a very important. It's not discover, I mean, walls are big there, but search is also big. So it's very useful to look there. CrowdTangle for all publishers, this is a must, right? So you see Instagram, you see Facebook, they created a new dashboard for COVID-19 and what's trending across all social platforms that they cover. So that's another tool that's really nice. This is, sorry, a wrong order, but you can dig in any Pinterest trend and see if it's going up or down, what's the related search terms, and so on. Another tool I like, it's called Hashtagify. So they give you all the hashtags that are trending across all social platforms. So this is good. You can discover new stuff there. You can track it. I think there is a free version and a paid version. So I'm not affiliated with any of these, but I think it's a good set of tools. Then you can look at any trend and you see 1 week and 1 month trend. Okay. So this is search, social, the top free ones. And then when it comes to commerce, I included commerce here, Stefan, because a lot of publishers are big on commerce and affiliates, right? So I said, okay, how we can provide a little bit more information there. So this is something we did internally at Condé Nast. What we did is we collected a list of keywords and we tracked the keywords in Google Trends. And we got the scores and we normalized the scores from 0 to 100, because if you look at 5 keywords together, they're normalized the data from 0 to 100. And it doesn't mean that it's, if you track another 5 keywords, this 0 to 100 is completely different scale. So you need a common keyword between the two to have the same data normalized. So
when you
we
say
track.
hold on, when you say a common keyword between the two, are you talking about? Are you going back and looking at the traditional search volume associated with them, like
No, let's say, for
monthly search
example,
volume?
your common keyword will be COVID,
Okay,
right, or coronavirus. You're
sure.
going to use this keyword in every Google trend search where you get the data. So the normalization of data from 0 to 100 is the same. It's always
Oh,
the
okay.
same
So the
scale.
tie that binds, you have to have one. Now, do you think that's how do you? Huh. I know this is going to take us down a little bit of a rabbit hole, John. But like in this case, we know COVID or coronavirus is the tie that binds. Otherwise, the shared keyword wouldn't necessarily always be the tie that binds. Correct? Like a color wouldn't be the tie that binds all different products because they could all be very different.
Yeah, yeah. When I collect the data, I don't have COVID or whatever the common word in these buckets, but
Okay.
I'm using a common word to get the same scale from 0 to 100.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we had thousands of keywords that we were tracking automatically in Google Trends to get their scale week after week, and this is how we build our own graphs. And we collected them in 10 different categories: how-tos, recipes, beauty and fitness, delivery, online socializing, fashion, and so on. And you see how we tracked all of this in Google Trends. Another resource I think is very helpful, I included the link here. There's a company that focuses on products and retail. It's called Stackline, and they put their top 100 gaining fastest growing and declining products in commerce and shopping. So give me 1 second, guys. Let me close the door, okay?
No worries.
They're running crazy.
All good.
Yeah, my youngest is shockingly quiet right now. Usually he's
Pat,
banging on the door.
Pat,
he's
what are you
crying.
doing, dude? What are you doing? Everyone who's ever been in a car and goes, look, there's no traffic. You jinxed it, buddy. You jinxed it.
I think he's actually asleep right now. He's been getting up like unbelievably early every day.
This is really cool. I like this.
Yeah, this is cool.
Okay, so I'm back.
All right.
Cool.
Okay, so you see like bread machines here, it was gaining like 600% increase in commerce trends, right? Everyone is buying bread machines and so on versus like suitcases and camping gears and golf equipments, everything was going down. So I included some of them here, but the full link is in the slides. Okay. This is based on the previous slide. eBay, so this is, I didn't know about this. Kevin is the one, he was presented the other day in another conference, and I saw this is very interesting. So this is what's happening right now in eBay. What are the top products that people are interested in, and so on. And you can click on each of these products and see like more search trends and related search queries. So that's another source for e-commerce. There is another site called go.within.co. It tracks the actual retail purchases, and it tracks the CPMs and the Facebook spend and Google spend. So this is very interesting. This is for the fashion, and you see how the fashion dropped drastically, but in the past few days, it's coming back up slowly, and the spend is coming up slowly and so on. So this is interesting, especially if you're doing any Google or Facebook spend and what's the conversion rate. So I like that tool a lot. Microsoft has a great blog about all different kinds of retails and like habits and so on. And it's also broken by industry. And you see, for example, like, I don't know, cooking week over week and year over year, searches versus clicks. So there's a ton of information there. I included the link. And then finally, this is my own tool. So I've been developing this for like few few years where I mainly track Google News and everything is happening in Google News. So the way I look at trends is a little bit differently. I build my own score and I see how frequently this trend is going, what is the estimated search volume, when did it start, and then I can look at it by the top ones or the latest ones.
Question on that. John, would you have been able to catch, and this is the only reason I'm asking this, because I don't know about you, but I'm still kind of shocked by the whole bread explosion, right? We'll call it the great yeast
yes.
yeast giving of 2020. For some reason, like if you had bet me a year ago and said there was going to be a global pandemic, what do you think the things people would stock up on were?
Yeah.
And I think I could probably name a few of them, right? But then to say, well, what hobbies do you think people would just pick up? Bread making would not have been the top of my list. I don't think it even would have made my top 10 in my brain. Would something like this have caught that? Or like, I'm trying to figure out like, A, why bread, and B, like, how would you catch something like that while it's going up? I think we've all heard now people talking about how bread is like the big hobby, right? And you've seen it yourself on Facebook, all your friends. It's odd, right? People are baking bread like it's going out of style. So, what are there any of the things that we just talked about that you think would have caught some of that aspect?
No, I mean, the one thing I did, but it didn't help a lot, is I looked at our data from 2008 crash, right? But this is completely different, right? But like, okay, people were concerned with their 401k, with finance, with stocks, and so on, right? And we see a glimpse of that right now, but not to the same extent. We don't have any previous incident where we can look at and compare to that magnitude. This is the only thing I would say that we will go back and, but no one would imagine that toilet papers will be out of stock. I would imagine a lot of other things, not toilet papers, right? I don't know the relationship there. Bread is like going like crazy, right? Like everyone is making bread, as you mentioned. So I think there are a few things that it's good to be surprised, right? I think Google one time they said on any given day, 25% of the searches that they see are new searches. Yeah. So imagine with this whole thing, I think a lot of new trends and hobbies are evolving, right?
Yeah, maybe I also think it might have, I don't know, maybe it has something also to do with access, right? You don't, if you want to take up the hobby of, I don't know, painting model airplanes, you have to get yourself paint and model planes, right? In the case of bread, it's like, I don't think you need as much. It's more ubiquitous in terms of the resources you need, and you already have some of them in your house. You have an oven, you have this, you have that. So it's not completely starting from scratch, for most people.
Yeah, but
the idea that you go to bread is just a weird thing to me. I don't know why.
It is because there wasn't bread shortage. When you go to like Costco or your favorite store, there was bread. There was no other stuff, sanitizers and so on, but bread was always there. Water was a little bit in the beginning, but after that it was fine. So it was very interesting why people picked on bread and baked potatoes, which is like huge, right?
I didn't know the baked potatoes thing till I saw your
it's really
till I
huge.
saw your data. But now I'm going to be looking for, once you see something, you can't unsee it. Now I'm going to be looking for baked potatoes in my social feed.
Oh, and what was the coffee I mentioned? The whipped coffee, right? So this has started as a major trend in Delegano coffee, I think. It started as a major trend in Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. It exploded, and then it moved to search, and everyone was searching how to make that recipe, right? So it's very interesting to find these kind of like new trends.
Yeah, and some of them you don't know until they explode. Like I guarantee you right now, if we were, and not to bring this to politics, but I guarantee you right now, if you were to look at some trends, Las Vegas mayor is going to be like through the roof, right? But yesterday, before she got on with Anderson Cooper and had this insane just back and forth between the two, I highly recommend you watch it just for pure entertainment value. But like, no one was looking that up before that point.
Yeah.
And there's no way you could have predicted that either. It's just, it went from like zero to everything, right?
Yeah. In the past, we used to have one source of trends, which is TV, right? Something will happen in TV and it will reflect in search, right? Have you seen this, or I want to know more about this? Now, social is becoming another source of trend. Something will evolve there, someone will do something, and this will become a trend as well. So I think between TV and what's going on in the world and social, I think we have a good idea of like where the trends are coming from. And finally, I want to share with this. So this is the COVID-19 section that Google created. I'll start tracking it just to understand the topical authority. And you see like CNN has about like 16% market share. New York Times comes second, CNBC comes second. Now, if you compare this to Google Web Rankings, so for example, you don't see Fox News here, which is like number 12 or 13 on this list. But if you look at Google Web Rankings, you see like CNN and Fox News are always like 1 and 2, 1 and 2. So it's interesting to see this topical authority in Google News. Yeah, I'm not making any point at all. This is just early for me. I just started like tracking it a week ago. But it gives me a good idea about what are the top sites that Google is highlighting in Google News. And then this is a breakdown.
That was very nice. You dropped a slight conspiracy theory there. I heard the sound of rollerblades. If anyone saw the black helicopters behind John, it was just for a brief second, and then he said, "Please pay no mind to the helicopter behind me." Let's move on.
Yeah. No, it's interesting where you compare between these different sources, and I'm not putting much into it, right? But yeah, you see CNN is very dominant, right? And then comes New York Times, CNBC News, and so on. So yeah, I'm still looking into it and see why. But this is everything. I thought I just want to share this with you guys. Maybe it's helpful to some of you. I don't know.
Are you kidding? Of course it is. There's no question that was incredibly helpful. I mean, I don't mind speaking on behalf of everyone here. If you didn't think that was helpful, by all means, feel free to leave because you're probably in the wrong meeting. That was awesome, dude. I got to tell you, I learned a ton. Just a bunch of little tools that I've never heard of that I like. I'm now like, you just filled up the rest of my week. I don't know how I'm going to get anything done because I'm definitely going to be playing way too much with just data and crazy ideas. I guess let's pivot how to take some of this information and how you use it in your business. So you work with publishers. Publishers are constantly cranking out content. They are the authority, and writers are often, if not always, to an extent, the authority in their space when they're writing about something. So are you bringing these pre-creation of content to them as story ideas or things they might want to build content around, or is it vice versa? They're taking the already established story, bringing it to you and saying, John, here's what I'm going out with. You may want to consider this in the way that we look to make sure more people are seeing it.
It's a two-way stream, to be honest with you. I don't think it was any publisher, like, they have so much knowledge of their niche, right? And most of the time, their fingers are on the pulse, right? For the most part, right? And they know what's going on with their audience. They have their own communities. They're talking to other publishers. So to say that SEO is bringing the list of topics to the publishers is really it's not true, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of content ideas come from the publisher themselves, from the editors and from the writers. Sometimes they come to us and say, hey, this is important for us. How we make sure we maximize the impact of that, right? Or are there any related topics around this? We know this is very important. What else, right? So this is one stream. The other stream is we provide them with a lot of these automated tools out there. I created a tool within Condé Nast so I take all the trends and I use a machine learning script to calculate the relevancy between the trend and the brands, right? So this trend is 60% relevant to Wired, right? And we have some mathematical formulas to estimate how big is the trend. Mm-hmm. And if the trend, let's say, is over 50% in relevancy and over 100,000 or 50,000, based on our estimates, we shoot them a Slack notification. Hey, we just saw this trend. We might think it's important for you, right? So this is another stream. And the third stream is we send them, hey, we see that office furniture around these products are really jumping up. Or while travel is down, everyone is now concerned about Expedia and refunds and cancellations. Maybe this is a good content. So it's always like a two-way stream, and we work very closely together on these kind of topics.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I think that's it's interesting to me to think that, well, let me ask you this. Do you ever seed where the publishers are getting their information from? Meaning like, okay, yes, some of them is phone calls and you'll never be able to replicate that, right? But like, do they ever give you the names of forums, things they're going to, and then you guys are like analyzing those things for data? Just because we just brought up, in fact, it was yesterday that every day is melding and we've had awesome guests blend together every day. So I don't even know anymore, but I know we talked about Reddit. Actually, we did on inclusionary. We were talking about inclusionary audiences with Perna yesterday, and we talked about Reddit as a great place to source information, right? Because obviously everyone's out there, and yes, that we could consider that more social, but I think of it as like social forum-y kind of thing, niche forums. So I'm just wondering, do they ever bring to you data sources that you then analyze to help identify trends?
Yeah. So right now so Reddit is a part of the Condé Nast portfolio, right? So I personally don't look at Reddit, but it's an amazing source of information. Our writers, I can give you an example. I can't remember the specific story, but it all came from a tweet to one of our editors at Wired. And she said, I think this is happening. And then they connected with her and it became a huge story. Forgive me, the details are like,
sure.
But sources can come from different places. We have some of our writers very active on LinkedIn. We have some of our writers and editors actually active in Reddit and watching it very closely, and in Twitter and so on, plus all the other traditional sources and the phone calls and the community and their inside information. So it can come from different sources. I'm tracking the public ones in search and social, but I think Reddit is a great source of information. And if you remember, when Google News or top stories in Google start allowing non-newsy sites to rank in top stories, Reddit and Twitter was the very first two that come in. I think this was around the Boston Marathon bomb,
yep.
Right? It didn't go the right direction with Reddit back then, right? But yeah, so there is a lot of value in these sources.
Yeah, I think well-engaged audiences that can create immediacy in terms of their feedback come with a good and a bad, right? Yes. I'll give you the example in the app world, right? For me, it's Citizen. I don't know if anyone has the Citizen app, but the Citizen app will basically, there it is. Nearby incident, fist fight, 2nd Avenue. I'm not kidding. 13 minutes ago, I got an update. It literally, just so everyone can see it. You can't see it, but anyway, it says, it literally fist fight, 2nd Avenue, 75th, 2nd Avenue and 75th Street, 13 minutes ago. So it now, could that be completely misconstrued and be wrong? Sure, it could be, because it's human generated. It's not, it's not, there's no official, is this fact or is this fiction? But there's definitely the idea that like the immediacy of that and this immediate version of I need information as soon as possible. And I think Google's looking at that and saying, okay, with a larger scale publisher, there are source vetting. There's a lot of things that go into that. Yes, that means authority through the roof, but it also means time, right?
Yeah.
Time to going live with things.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, by the way, side note, have you seen any issues with indexation today? Because Barry Schwartz was talking about how Google News is having some issues indexing. Are you guys also confirming that? Have you seen an index
I
problem?
haven't seen anything on our end, no.
Okay.
But I wonder if anyone else did.
Yeah, we were. That's just for everybody else. In case you haven't read, there's a search engine article. Barry Schwartz gets into the idea that he's starting to find that there was an issue with indexation. Danny Sullivan said they're looking into it. I don't know if it's only news related. It kind of ties back to the conversation we were having with Bill Siebold earlier in the week about site colons and using site operators in order to find stuff that's indexed. Because Bill had a back and forth with John Mueller about using site colons, and John said, well, you can't, just because something doesn't show up in our site colon doesn't mean it's not indexed. Site colons aren't really the index. And so that led to a whole, and Barry used site colon to confirm he wasn't being indexed at first.
Exactly,
So
that's all we do,
I'm like,
right?
This is going around in a freaking circle. If you just been at Search From Home for the week, you would see this thing with all these topics are kind of coming and melding together over stuff. Anyway, complete
I think
side note.
The last time this happened around Oscars, I remember Monday, we had like a big exclusive story on Vanity Fair. I think it was around Oscar, I can't remember. And Google News were like no indexation for like a whole day or something. So
which is a real problem. I mean, my God, that sucks.
Yes, it really impacts publishers, right?
Absolutely.
That sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel so bad for that writer too. I mean, you go through the process of the gift of putting it all down, getting it together, getting it ready, getting your sources, doing all the stuff you have to do. And then you press publish, and then you're like, what's with the anemic flow of traffic?
Yeah.
Why isn't anyone reading this?
Yeah. So true.
That's not cool. What are you most surprised about in this process right now, John, in terms of like, are there things aside from bread and potatoes, which we've gone over ad nauseum? What are the things that are like surprising you, maybe either about our industry or about the data you're seeing, or even the way teams are reacting or companies are reacting? Is there anything that comes to mind that makes you go, oh, I wasn't expecting that? Good or bad?
I think I'm surprised by our human nature to be optimism in the darkest days, right? We find a way to come out of these kind of circumstances, right? And we adapt quickly, right? It's like, you see the first couple of weeks where like people were down and like all into it, but then quickly people will start like, okay, how can I be fit at home? How can I have a better office furniture? Because this is going to be my place now for the next few weeks or few months, right?
Yeah.
How can I get a new hobby, right? What can I do with my kids, right? So it's like a lot of parents are like, okay, now I'm spending all this time with my kids. I need to find some kind of ideas and stuff, right? I'm amazed by, I know this has nothing to do with search, but I'm amazed by teachers, right? It's like teachers who never did remote schooling ever, right? And suddenly over a week or over a few days, they had to go like, I don't know, get Google classes and start transferring the curriculum into online and like figure out how they communicate with their kids and how to check the homework. I'm really amazed by the human nature for good and the human nature to find the way out. Even if the circumstances didn't change, doesn't mean that you have to remain in the same kind of situation. We find a way out. So I love that. And if we understand that that's why the search trends are evolving, right? And moving into a different directions. That's why social is becoming so popular now. The escapism my ESL get the best out of me sometimes to people to escape, right?
No, escapism was the right word.
Okay, good.
Absolutely the right word.
Yeah.
You're too tough on yourself as you're talking about the way people, the uplifting message. You're too tough on yourself, bro.
Just to say Massachusetts, it took me like 2 years. So
well, we wouldn't have known, man. We wouldn't have known. You had that down pat. I can't even spell it, and yes, I'm still ESL as well. But like, yeah, I think that's awesome. I love that message. And
that's what I love. I mean, you see the good in people, the people who are serving out there on the front lines, right? It's amazing. I'm amazed by that, and I think the human story is the thing that will always remain the most popular, right? Understanding the human behavior then you can understand the data, and then you can understand how the behavior is changing from 1 week to the next.
Yeah, so there's a key, to me, there's a really key point there that I think we should just pull apart very quickly, which is I have been noticing, especially in these conversations that we're having daily and so forth with really smart minds in the search industry, more than ever, and I'm going to use that term. By the way, if you haven't checked out in the LinkedIn group the video about how all COVID ads are the same, you should click on it, because I just used one of those buzzwords, now more than ever. But
together,
together, home. But for 82 years, anyway. So the reason I really think we're at this point where data driving message matters more than ever. It really does. The idea that data driving business decisions, now when I say data has always driven business decisions to a degree, right? But I think it's the sensitivity of using the listening engines you have access to, which is search engine data, which is social data, which is feedback modules that are clearly out there. And whether you've been listening to them or not, some businesses put their head down, they just trudge forward, right? They don't really care about what's being said out there. They're like, this is my message, I'm just going to stuff it in, right? Then others are starting to realize, like, you can't just bull your way through there. You've got to take the data that you're seeing and the audience and an understanding of that, bring that back to your business, understand how these people are discussing these topics, why these topics are important to them, the value of solving some of the problems they're bringing up. And then, this is the key point that you just said, bring it back to them in a human way, in a relatable way, not in a, well, my brand can do this, so don't worry, buy from me. That's very, again, it's like you got it all right by figuring out what their problem was and trying to solve it with your product. But then your last mile, which everyone knows, if you fall flat on the last mile of a race, it doesn't matter if you were in first the whole time. It's how you finish. So that finish point has to be showing up with a story, showing up with a cohesive message that then is relatable to them, to where they were at the beginning, right? I understood you. Here's how I understood you, and here's how I'm solving it for you. And if you can get those things right, this is going to be easy for you, right? I think. I don't know. Do you agree with that?
No, I totally agree. And I think data, I always tell my teams, data is 30% numbers, 70% story, right?
Like
the numbers themselves are, if there's no story behind the numbers, then we failed, right? It's 30% data. Good, you collected the data, you make sense out of it, you understand why the data is the way it is right now, and there's a lot of exceptions, and you have to understand the seasonality, and you have to understand what's going around, right? And then you drive the story, right? That's the ultimate goal, is like, what is the story really out there? But I totally agree with you.
I love that. I think it's that's where I hope that as marketers we evolve. Okay. So, like our acceptance for change is not just happening within the four walls. It's not just happening within the hobbies we're choosing or the parenting styles. It also should be in our profession. Like, we should be willing to change as professionals and recognize that if we weren't using this before in that way, and saying, my job is only to get the marketing message out. It was never to worry about whether it was accurate and
Yeah.
you know, and relevant. And you know, I was just what is it, a megaphone, right? I was just here to amplify. I wasn't here to change the message, change the tune, or even consider what instruments are being used. To me, that's where we as marketers now need to realize more than ever that where the business decisions may be made are not always informed with this information. It's our job to bring that data to them. But to your point, if you bring 30% worth, which is just the data itself, it will fall flat. If you bring it in the context of a human story, even internally, because we forget that we as marketers need to market internally as much as we try to market externally. That's like the number one fail, right? So I love that idea. With the last few minutes here, John, when you go and share this information, are you telling it in a story format? Like, how are you telling the non-data folks the data?
Yeah, I mean, we don't share spreadsheets or like, you know, or Google Sheets or Excel reports, right? It's a story, right? A bullet pointed story that is supported by some kind of visualization on this is what we're seeing from the data. This is how we tell story. And one thing I want to throw it out there, something that we're thinking a lot about right now, which touches on a point that you mentioned, is what's going to happen, how the search behavior and user behaviors will change after all of this. So after 3 months from now, right, are people still going to making bread at home? Are they still, what are they going to do with all the fitness equipment that they bought, right? Are they going to go back to the movie theaters, or maybe the home theater is the better experience because they can still have food and their kids and so on, right? I keep thinking about how the user behavior will change. What type of products that will continue as is right now, or behaviors that will continue as is, and what behaviors that will drop. So it's very interesting. And if people can know how to predict this in 3 months, I think they can make a lot of money there. But
yeah, I think no, that's a great point. If you haven't seen it, I'll share it. I'll share something that Dwayne Forrester shared on Facebook, kind of skating to where the puck is. Also, if you haven't in the LinkedIn group, also, because I will continue to pitch that ad nauseum. Sorry, guys. I think it's a great place. We've got about 250 users in there so far, and I'm getting 10 to 15 requests to 20 requests every day. If you're in there, invite your friends, invite other marketers that are smart, so we can continue the conversation there. Dan Padmore asked specifically, what are you reading? No plug, but I did plug Wired. What are you reading for futurists? For considering where this all goes, and not just where this goes, but in general, where things are going for futurist content. There's been a conversation and a string on there that started to pick up some steam. So by all means, get in there and check that out. John, thank you so much for joining us today. This was enlightening in so many different ways, both from the tactical and the strategic and the emotional. I just feel really good walking out of it. So I always do when I hang out with you, I got to spend more time with you, because I always feel good.
We absolutely should. We have all the time now.
Yeah, right. I feel like I have a lot of time and I have no time. So there's no such thing as time. It's a construct. Yeah. Anyway.
No, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. We really appreciate everything you've done, your time, your insights. Guys, thank you all so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Join us tomorrow. Rich Fagan, PC Richard, and Son. He's going to get into really what's going on in e-commerce, what he's seeing with a 100-year-old brand, and how he's trying to evolve them in the age of COVID and what to do about that. So as usual, please stay home, stay safe, stay connected, and we will see you all tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Thanks so much, John. Thanks again. Bye.
Bye.